please. Come on.
Which hospital is that? The doctor, is he well?
Yes.
How much you need?
I'll be needing 5,000 Ghana cedis.
Jesus Christ! Should have at least waited for you to close before you come.
Must parents pay their awards fees for you to play with their education?
Live from Platinum High Studios in Accra, this is GH1 News Tonight.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to News Tonight, live on GH1 TV with me, Nana Abba Anamoah.
And I am Francis Abban. This is the best primetime news in Ghana. You don't want to miss it for anything.
Absolutely. Coming up are the headlines for tonight. Top managers of the cocoa marketing company face possible salary cuts following hints by chairman of the new board.
We ask greed or legitimate claim. Answers to the suit by 40 MPs asking for pension money after serving 2 terms. Kweku
Kwate hits back at critics who slammed President Akufo-Addo for his elephant-sized government when he faced the appointment committee today.
In business, cedi depreciates by 5% for the month of March, 5 times more than the rate of depreciation the same time last year.
In sports, Black Starlets, I beg your pardon, line up 2 friendlies ahead of Gabon 2017.
And on the international front, Muammar Gaddafi's daughter wins bid to lift EU sanctions imposed on her.
Top managers of the cocoa marketing company should brace themselves for a possible salary cut. This is according to the chairman of the new board, Hackman Owusu-Agyeman, who pledged to do his best together with his members to arrest the challenges bedeviling the cocoa sector. President Akufo-Addo, however, charged them to lift Ghana's cocoa production to 1 million tons per annum.
In the name of the Almighty God swear.
The president expressed confidence in the new board and its composition and described them as a winning team that would turn the cocoa sector around.
I am confident that the caliber of men and women who are now on the board of the Cocoa Marketing Board are going to be able to discharge. The Ghanaian people are looking at you. They want to see a new leaf turned in the manner in which our cocoa industry has been managed and developed. And you're doing so under the overall leadership of a minister of agriculture who has given his life to developing this industry.
Chairman of the new board, Hackman Owusu-Agyeman, indicated that despite the many challenges bedeviling the cocoa sector, his team will work assiduously to make the sector more financially viable.
Mr. President, you have given us a job, and we'll do our best with your support and that of your senior members of the presidency, and we hope to be able to rise to the occasion. It will take some time, yes, but we will start by reviewing all contracts that have been signed. Because just sometime on cursory looks, you see definitely they are completely out of place. So we will do that. We'll also go further and make sure that value for money is achieved for everybody.
The members of the new board of directors of the cocoa marketing company include Joseph Boahen Edu, Kwame Sapong, Dr. Abdul Nashiru Isahaku, Nana Jwa Doku, and Nana Johnson Mensah. The rest are Nana Obenya Krofi, Peter Atabwache, Charles Eduboahen, Carlos Ahenkra, and Geli Nura.
interesting names in there for that new board. But again, you look at this appointment at a time when there are lots of issues to look at in the Ghana's cocoa sector. Let's go to some of the challenges that we know as we speak. First, there's the matter of the falling cocoa yields for the past 6 years. It has not been encouraging. Ever since we recorded the 1 million tons sometime under the Eswakov administration, we have struggled to come back to that condition, and that has been difficult. No profit margins have been recorded in the last 4 years for cocoa board, and that is one of the reasons why there are talks of a shake-up in that regard. Also, the economic conditions effect on the price and value of the commodity has been worrisome, because we know that in the last 2-3 years there were questions about our yields, the price of cocoa on the world market, and whether as a country we were putting our commodity in the best light to get its yield. Bearing in mind also that Cote d'Ivoire next door was also producing some good premium cocoa and competing with us quite strongly in getting this particular commodity. And that's one of the things we had to grapple with in the last few years. Then let's talk of the soil fertility and the effects of galamsey on cocoa lands. We know that many farmers have had their either selling of their lands to these illegal mining operators, or they've had to struggle with an invasion of these guys coming through. And that actually adversely affects the fertility of the soil that will be needed to grow this essential cash crop in the country today. Now, low yields also, due to lack of investments in properly growing the cash crop cocoa, is one of the major problems we've had in the last few days, and the last few years, in fact. We know that interventions that were supposed to go in this regard, the investments, the syndicated loan for helping farmers, other things to do with the mass cocoa spraying, were bedeviled with a lot of challenges, and that meant that the yields expected for this sector were not doing too well. Also, corruption bedeviling the authority was a matter that came up. Last year, I remember, there were some agitations between the workers of Cocoa Board, the CPC, and management. Talks about labor, money's being misappropriated, over $1 billion unaccounted for. Some of the allegations we saw flying against the then CEO, Mr. Opuni, at the time. The mass cocoa spraying had issues about the farmers who were supposed to benefit not getting what they needed in that regard. So, bearing in mind what we know as the challenges, we now have a new man at the job, the new board. Hackman Osuajiman takes over as chairmanship of the board from the former Ashanti Regional Minister, Daniel Ohene Ajekum. Quickly, as we go through it, other members we brought to you in that report, Kwame Sapong, Nana Johnson Mensah, and Carlos Ahinkra, making up that list for the new Cocoa Board. Now, these are 4 targets that we have to bear in mind even before we engage the chairman of the board this evening. Restructure the cocoa management body to make it economically viable and post profits. Also, deal with financial mismanagement of funds and loans at Cocoa Board. Then revamp the cocoa growth interventions like the mass spraying exercise, and then achieve 1 million tons of cocoa, a level once reached under the Eswakov administration per annum. So that's what we're looking at in terms of this sector and the new job at hand, Nana.
Right. Thank you very much, Francis Abban, there, taking us through exactly what the problems and the success story has been in the cocoa sector. Let's go to the phone now and talk to Mr. Hackman Owusu-Agyemang. He's the chairman of the board, and that board was inaugurated today by the president, and he's joined us on the phone. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Owusu-Agyemang, and I hope you're doing very well. First of all, per the headline we read earlier, we understand of hints of a salary cut. Will this be legal? Can you walk us through exactly what that is about?
Good evening, Nana. I don't think people are very worried about the legality or illegality of that proposal. What I'm saying, or what we are saying, is that as of now, the gross salary of the chief executive is in the order of 75,000 cedis a month, net roughly 57,000. In as much as these officers are no longer there, and the board of the Cocoa Board, representing the state, can now negotiate and cut down the salaries for those new ones who are coming in. So, and I don't think they have any objection. Indeed, the new executive has completely embraced enthusiastically our request that the salary level be cut down dramatically. And I haven't even cut it down, even by 50%. I think it will still be higher than anything that anybody received under Article 71 of the Constitution, the Article 71 office holders. So whatever we're doing about legality and illegality, we cannot vary somebody's conditions of service to his detriment. But as much as we are not there, and there is the prerogative of the board to fix the levels, I don't think we are doing anything illegal.
Okay. Now, I want to move away from the salary cuts to look at the sector itself because, of course, when you were sworn in, you talked about your plans for the sector, but, of course, the challenges as well in the sector. I want us to talk about the falling yields and also just last week, a group of cocoa farmers somewhere in the Ashanti region threatening to burn up their cocoa farms because of the effects.
The line is not too clear. Can you move quite slowly so I can catch what you are asking, please?
All right. That's fine. I will do exactly so. I was saying that I want us to focus on the falling yields, of which you are determined to improve, and also the effect of galamsey on cocoa farms, because just last week, a group of farmers in the Ashanti region, somewhere in the Ashanti region, threatened to burn up their cocoa farms because of the effect of galamsey, because they feel that it is more profitable to go into galamsey. What are your plans to increase yields and also to keep these farmers active in the sector?
Remember, to increase yields, we must be realistic and limit ourselves to the things that are within our remit, within our ability to do. And what we intend to do is to intensify and comprehensively do the mass spraying, as well as the high-tech program, provide them seedlings, high-yielding seedlings, and wherever we cut cocoa down, in other words, for the treatment of swelling shoot, we will replant. And whilst we are replanting, give some sort of subsistence to the cocoa farmers. But most importantly, also, to ensure that we do what we call hand pollination and artificial pollination, which will also increase yield. It's been known to increase yield sometimes by about 50% minimum. And so all these little things, all this, the totality of this would lead to increased yield. But as far as galamsey is concerned, I am really distressed. We are distressed that prime cocoa lands are being sold out to people for galamsey. But this certainly is beyond Cocoa Board and its management and its board. That is an issue which of national concern, of national security concern, because all our water bodies are being destroyed. And I had the privilege of managing the water system for a couple of years in our earlier incarnation, and we did very well to increase the level of water availability. Now, see, everything is being destroyed. And posterity, what do we leave for posterity? These are the big questions, the big issues which must be tackled by national security, by all and sundry. The nation, it's an emergency for me, it's an emergency undertaking for the state. And it must be a comprehensive solution. Because when you eliminate these boys or these people from the galamsey, they must give them alternative livelihood of living. And we, for our part, the areas are to be liberated for cocoa production. We shall see it ourselves to provide them all the amenities as well as the support to go into cocoa production, make cocoa production lucrative for the younger generation and make it productive also.
Okay. Now, Mr. Usajiman.
Big issue for yes,
okay.
Yes,
sorry, before I let you go, at your inauguration, the president charged you to lift Ghana's cocoa production to 1 million tons per annum. Would you say that is your personal target as well?
That is the target. That is the target of our party. That is the target of the president. That is the target of the board. It can be done. We are now roughly around 850 Cape Downs, about 850. And to take it up there will mean a lot of effort. It will mean that we have to stop the smuggling of insecticides and fertilizers across the border. We have to make sure that whatever is destined for the farmers, cocoa farmers, get to them. And that at the end of the day, when we have maintained our premium cocoa status, whatever we get out of that is given to them. it cannot be the case that those who are producing their sweat and labor and sometimes their blood should not be benefiting from it.
Right.
And then have this idea of spurious cocoa growth being done in cities and metropolis and whatever. Even the cocoa rows and things like that, social responsibility must benefit the farmers. So if we encourage the farmers, give them what we should give them, and all the inputs are available, my dear, we can reach the 1 million tons as we almost reached when we were in government the last time.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. Mr. Hackman Owusu-Agyeman is the chairman of the Ghana Cocoa Marketing Company Board. Well, so we've just been talking to him, and that will be it for Insight.
Well, in other news tonight, 40 former MPs who served under the Kufuor administration have sued the Attorney General and the Ministry of Finance over pensions owed them, demanding at least 233,495 Ghana cedis each.
Amongst the plaintiffs are the senior minister in the Nana Akufo-Addo administration, Yawa Safo Mafo, the acting New Patriotic Party chairman, Freddie Blay, and Kwamina Bartels. The initial lump sum was said to be 13,735 Ghana cedis per plaintiff, but interest accrued on the amount from January 2009 to February 2016, raising the amount to 233,495 Ghana cedis. That would mean government would have to give out almost 10 million Ghana cedis to settle the former MPs. The plaintiff's claim is anchored on one of the recommendations of the Chenery Hesse Committee's report, which says that persons who exited Parliament having served 2 full-term periods and are above 50 years should be paid some sums of money as pension benefits. Among the other reliefs, the disgruntled former MPs are also praying the courts refund their legal bills. The former MPs have since 2011 been negotiating with government regarding the pensions, but the attempts to have their demand met have proved futile.
So joining us on the line on this story is David Apasari, who's the former MP for Bolgatanga under the Kufuor administration. He's joined us this evening. Thank you, sir, for your time this evening.
Yeah, fine evening.
Right, so you're asking that your pensions money be paid to you. The first thing I want to find out from you is that why has it taken you and the 39 colleagues of yours this long to make this claim?
Thank you very much. And yes, as you rightfully read out, we have been pursuing the matter since 2011. And in fact, 2011, the then President Atta Mills, was very convinced that we should be paid. But unfortunately, he passed on untimely. And that delayed the process. And then we continued it afterwards. And in 2014, we were able to meet President John Mahama, and who also saw reason with us, and asked his then Chief of Staff to write to the Minister for Finance to effect payment. Unfortunately, the Chief of Staff wrote, but the Minister for Finance refused to pay. And so we continued the battle. We continued to negotiate, to move to government, to go to the presidency, to go to the Ministry of Finance, and then to go to Attorney General. But as we continued, we realized that there was no way out. The minister had made a decision, and they were not going to pay. So the only alternative was to go to court. And so we decided to go to court in 2016. So we have been in court for over 1 year now. The fact that the matter is coming to the public domain now doesn't mean we just come. We started it long ago. But also what I wanted to clear is that
It is not the interest accruing on the lump sum of 13,000. That has risen to 200 and something thousand. It is just that every month we are supposed to take 20% of the sitting MP salary as pension. And so from 2009 January, that we should have been taking this, we have been denied. So when you calculate it by the month, you get the figure that we are talking about.
Okay.
So it is not the interest that's accruing, but every month that we should have been taking pension, and we are not taking. That's what has been.
Okay, quick clarity for me before we move to other things, Mr. Afasara. Is it just the 40 MPs out of the over 200 that didn't get the money owed them at the time?
No. What happens is that when you, according to General Housing Committee's report, if you do 2 consecutive terms, you would, or more, you would qualify for pension. And then you would draw the pension on condition that you haven't had another appointment that is giving you the opportunity to draw from the consolidated fund, or you haven't reached the age of 50. So if, for instance, you exited Parliament and you had an opportunity of being appointed to a position where you're withdrawing from the consolidated fund, your name will not be included. And that is how come a good number of us have our names out of it. But also, the pension such that it is not a one lump sum. It is a monthly pension to be paid. Every month you take it. And that's what keeps you. And I think every retired worker has some form of pension. And that's what was prescribed for us.
All right, Mr. Masara, please stay online for me for just a minute. Joining us also now is the former Deputy Finance Minister, K.S. Forson. Mr. Forson, thank you for your time. Why were these monies not paid to the 40 MPs in your time? Because we're told it came up during your administration in 2014.
I can't remember, but what I can say is that I remember the issue came up. I handled aspect of it during the time. In fact, we had a letter from the AG, one instructing us to pay, and another letter from the AG came asking us to hold on. So obviously, if you have 2 letters from the AG, one asking you to pay and another letter asking you to hold on, there is no way you could make a payment.
The letter asking you to hold on, what reasons were given for it?
I cannot give you the details. At the end of the day, it's in court. Let's wait and see what comes out of the court, and then we can take it from there.
But from where you sit, bearing in mind the portfolio you held as Deputy Finance Minister, was this payment that you had to do, did you find this as a legitimate claim?
You see, I cannot sit here and say whether it's legitimate or illegitimate. The reality is that clearly the Chineri Hesse report recommended for some pension to be paid, though the Ministry of Finance had reservations about the fact that pension should be contributory. The fact is that Chineri Hesse report made recommendation for the pension to be paid. So obviously, all what we could do is to ask for the AG to give us approval to have that payment done. For some reason, you recall that the previous president, President John Evans Atanos, recommended that aspect of Chineri Hesse's report should be reviewed. An impression was created as if Chineri Hesse report was not actually accepted. And that was what necessitated the back and forth of whether it should be paid or not to be paid. But what I can say is that we received 2 letters from the Attorney General then, one asking us to pay, and then in the process, we had another letter asking us to hold on while further consultation continues. So that was where we left it. So until that time, I can't say anything. The matter is going to court. If court directs that the state should pay, yes, the state will have to pay.
All right, Mr. Fossen, thank you for your time this evening, former Deputy Finance Minister, and also to David Apasara, the former Bogatanga MP. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time with us this evening on this particular story.
All right, so let's take other stories now. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair has expressed optimism that President Akufo-Addo would rise to the occasion and deal with the many challenges confronting Ghana. Tony Blair was speaking at the Flagstaff House when he paid a courtesy call on the president today.
I think this is a very important moment for the country. You come at a time of great expectation. You have assumed this great responsibility of office, and as is very apparent when anyone spends time with you, they realize that they're with someone who has the interests of the country in his heart and the right spirit with which to approach these challenges. So I know the challenges are formidable. What I work on now, as we were discussing, is trying to use the experience of my time in office to do what I can to help countries in their process of change and development. Our initiative is in 8 different countries in Africa today. We just focus on a very simple thing, which is helping countries deliver the priorities for their people. We do it in a completely non-partisan, non-political way, but we do it because if the countries can develop and their people prosper, I think this is not just good for Ghana, but good for the region, good for Africa, and good for the world.
And he came to have a discussion with me about the ways which he can help, the insights that he's had into governance, and how that could also help me in what I'm trying to do.
Right, let's move quickly to Parliament, where the Minister of State in charge of monitoring and evaluation, Dr. Anthony Akotose, has chastised his colleague MPs for asking the Finance Ministry to increase allocations to various ministries, departments and agencies in the 2017 budget.
At present, various ministries, departments and agencies have had their budgetary allocations slashed, particularly in the area of internally generated fund. Already, there is a bill before Parliament to allow government to redirect money from various statutory funds to the Finance Ministry for the financing of government priority projects. The GET Fund, NHIS Fund, District Assembly Common Fund, among others, will be affected if the bill passes into law. On Monday, the bill reached the consideration stage. A cap will also be placed on spending of internally generated funds by various ministries, departments and agencies for the remainder to be sent to the Finance Ministry. Some ministers who are also MPs have been pushing for increased allocation, but MP for Old Tafo said such a move would be illegal. Speaking during the approval of the budget estimate of Ministry of Justice and Attorney General's Department, Dr. Akotose explained the President is the only one vested with that power. MDAs have been lamenting the poor allocations, prompting various parliamentary committees to request for more money from the Finance Minister. Here are some excerpts from the floor.
It is very important that we support this particular budget for the health sector. Simply because when we went with the agency, it was revealed that they face a lot of problems, especially in terms of accommodation, in terms of staffing strength, and a lot of things. And many of them will face equipment problems. So they spoke at length. In 2016, the budget for the Ministry of Health, especially the one approved for service, was only about 1.2 billion. And out of this, only 784,000 was released. This affected service delivery, and if you read the report from the ministry, you realize that most of the important indicators were all not achieved or they were going down. In 2017, we are lucky the budget has increased to 4.2 billion. Mr. Speaker, we realize that all the regulatory bodies, apart from staffing problems, were also having accommodation challenges. And those who have the capacity were trying to put up their own accommodation. But what we propose is that maybe the ministry considers putting up something like a health regulatory body complex, so that the cost of construction or acquiring accommodation will reduce, and that all the regulatory bodies maybe could be in one complex.
Because what he actually referring to was what was done yesterday. And you can make reference to what we have in the bill, because there is nothing like total in the bill. So making reference to line 2 of the bill, you are making a mistake and you are confusing everybody, because we don't have that in what we have here. The proper procedure was to come under second constitutional state, because the decision was taken on 2A yesterday. So if you want to go back and correct that one, come under second constitutional state. You don't pass the back door and want to do it. That is why you're making that mistake.
So the Deputy Finance Minister designate Kweku Kwarteng has strongly defended the appointment of 110 ministers by President Akufo-Addo. Appearing before the Appointments Committee today, the Obuasi West MP said the criticisms about the drain on public purse is unfounded, or in fact are unfounded.
The Deputy Finance Minister explained the cost to be incurred by the administration in terms of perks to be enjoyed by the ministers might be lower than that of the Mahama administration, which had a little over 80 ministers. Citing an example to back his point, he said the directive for MDAs not to buy new vehicles is a cost-saving measure.
I am of the view that if sufficient cost-cutting measures are deployed by government, we may well end up with the cost of a government administration being lower than it could be if you appointed, say, 80 ministers without an associated cost-cutting intervention.
The Deputy Minister was also forced to eat back a number of derogatory words used to describe former President Mahama.
Well, residents of Jita, a fishing community in the Keta municipality of the Volta region, have hit the streets today in protest against reported incidents of serial killings in the area. Following the protest, the residents, led by the assemblyman, presented a petition to the regional police commander to look into these mysterious deaths.
Residents say they wake up to the sight of one dead body or another at the outskirts of the community and along the shore in recent times. According to them, between 2013 and 2017, over 10 residents, including 3 children, have been killed in the area with parts of their bodies missing. Residents claim they find the mutilated bodies of the victims but never seem to know who the killers are. The latest incident occurred last Monday when the body of a woman was found along the shore during a search for a carpenter who went missing in the area. This left residents in a state of fear and anxiety. Brass Dejo, assembly member for Jita, told Star News the situation has become very alarming as residents go about their daily activities in fear. He indicated that several reports to the police in the area have not yielded any results, hence their resort to the peaceful protest to draw attention of the authorities to come to their aid.
All right, we're taking a break, but just to remind you that on State of Affairs, we'll be bringing you the details of the meeting between the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair and President Akufo-Addo today at the Flagstaff House, followed by his encounter with the media at the IEA. So we have a full
details
of what happened when Tony Blair visited Ghana today.
Okay, interesting.
You like him?
I think he's a leader that, you know, many respect.
He's charismatic.
So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll be right back with Business with Kweku Timmy.
Dreams can come true with Airtel. Recharge with 2 Ghana cedis and more and get instant prizes guaranteed. Keep scratching to win mobile devices daily. 10,000 cedis weekly, 25,000 cedis monthly, and the grand prize of 150,000 cedis. Airtel, the smartphone network.
welcome back. It's time now for business with Kweku Timing. Do you have anything for Kweku?
Kweku, good evening. I don't think you have anything for me, Francis.
Why? How do you know?
Think I have something for
tell you what I have for you.
How does he know you have nothing for him?
Because I do.
No, but how does he know you have nothing for him?
Well, he has to deflect it. So.
I see. So it's a strategy. All right.
All right.
Okay. I'll let it glide for today.
It worked for me so well. All right, so we'll tell you in a short while reactions from captains of industry about the policy rate being reduced by 200 basis points. Indeed, what captains of industry think. When we come back, we have this and other interesting details coming up shortly in business. Right, so just a bit of straightening off the tie. Let's do business now. Captains of industry have described as welcoming moves by the central bank to reduce the policy rate by 200 basis points to 23.5%. Now, they said the initiative would promote the ease of doing business, but cautions the central bank to impress on the various commercial banks to reduce the lending rate in line with the drop in the benchmark interest rate. The Association of Ghana Industries has persistently advocated the cost of doing business in Ghana is relatively high compared to other countries within the sub-region. Thus, they attributed to the high cost of borrowing, which was persistently driven by the rising policy rate, which was set at 25.5% for several months. Chief Executive Officer of the AGI, Seth Chumakobua, described as welcoming news the decision to slash the policy rate, but cautioned the various commercial banks to cut down their interest rate charges on loans.
Reduction in the policy rate, which we expect it to translate into a reduction in the interest rate, will have a positive development on businesses. Cost of borrowing is expected to go down, and for that reason, cost of doing business should also come down. I will caution, though, that we've also had experiences in the past where policy rate has gone down and yet interest rates did not respond so significantly.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Private Enterprise Federation, Nana Osei-Bonsu, advised business leaders not to start celebrating yet, since the policy rate has very little influence over the bank's lending rates in Ghana. He told the Business Brief most banks are reluctant about reducing their lending rates, even when there is a significant drop in the policy rate.
The key question we keep asking of late, the relevance of the policy rate, if it doesn't have a direct relationship with the lending rate charged by the banks. Unlike the other jurisdictions, when you have the Fed fund rate, it influences about 300 basis points of the prime rate that the banks charge their best customers. So if this is now through a weighted average, a weighted formula, then we should then ask ourselves, because the policy rate is at 23.5. The treasury rate is about 17 or 19. Now, what is the direct relationship between these two elements?
The policy rate is indicative of the rate at which the central bank lends to the various commercial banks for onward lending to their customers. All right, so in the coming days, we'll sustain the discussions on the policy rate and how, indeed, it reflects in the lending rate of the various banks in the country. But let's do other stories now. Our stakeholders in the financial sector have tasked government to create a policy that will bridge the gap between academia and industry. Now, this policy, according to industry players, will help in the ease of identification of talent right from school.
Graduate unemployment has been a bane for successive governments in Ghana. Despite several efforts to curb the growing unemployment rate in Ghana, it keeps increasing. In a bid to bridge the widening gap between the industry and academia and reduce unemployment, a challenge for tertiary students reading banking and finance, dubbed the Royal Banking and Finance Challenge, has been set. The maiden edition of the challenge saw student representatives of some universities battle it out on who best knows and understands operations within the financial sector. Stakeholders at the event decried the increasing graduate unemployment and urged government to formulate a policy to empower tertiary students while making the business environment friendly for the private sector. The executive director of EduFair, organizers of the event, Eresi Anyimayu, decried the level of depth of knowledge of current graduates and called for more pragmatic steps to curb the challenge.
With this platform, we get to know, are they really on top of their game, as long as wanting to know what goes into industry practice, or what they're learning in school is so different from what is expected of them once they get into the job market. So with this challenge, we would actually get to know. If there are basic questions that students are unable to answer, they should inform the various schools. Either they look at the curriculum, or we actually do a little bit more in terms of bringing them closer to industry practice.
The Royal Banking and Finance Challenge is an initiative that seeks to educate the youth and society on the importance of financial literacy and to provide a platform for the educated youth to contribute meaningfully to the growth of the financial sector.
All right, so we're still doing business on GH1 News tonight. Some other stories: a pro-poor advocacy budget project has been set up by Send Ghana to address the weaknesses in the implementation of social protection interventions by the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection and the Ministry of Finance. Now, the project, which will primarily focus on LEAP implementation, will be piloted in 6 districts in the Upper West and Greater Accra regions.
The overall aim of the project is to create an enabling environment for citizens' engagement in the national budget. The project is also aimed at advocating for increased budgetary allocation for the most vulnerable in society. The pro-poor advocacy budget project has become necessary following the increasing poverty gap between the poorest 10% and the richest 10% of the country's population. Country Director of Send Ghana, George Osei Bimpe, called for intense monitoring and supervision of budgets allocated to the poor and vulnerable in society.
In as much as we are encouraging government to make sure that they increase allocation and actual disbursement, we cannot leave the monitoring of the implementation of this program to only government. Government would need us to provide independent feedback to give a sense of how we are making use of all these public resources and whether we are getting value for money and we are achieving our aim. So for us as Send Ghana, the way to ensure that the budget allocations are reaching the right people is the work that we are now going to do to actually follow the money and follow and monitor it at the community level in a way that will help us to generate independent information to fill the feedback loop so that government will use such information to improve on how they are delivering the program.
Okay, so just before we go, let me just quickly take you to the commodities markets, getting you some updates of prices. That's the latest prices that we have for you. So Brent crude this evening on the international market is pegged at $51. Gold is currently trading at $1,254 an ounce on the international markets. Just a quick look for cocoa, and it's pegged at $2,129 on the international market. So those are some updates. I won't go into the currencies, but just a look at the US dollar against the Ghana cedi, and it's hovering around 4.3, 4.4. So those are the updates that we have for you this evening. Well, that's about it for business. Nanaim Francis, you take it up, and I'm sure you're bringing us more.
Thank you very much, Kweku Timmy. All right, so we've got the weather coming up now.
Yeah.
Enough! Abba! Plenty medical bills. I have tried different methods and it hasn't prevented sin. My son has been in the hospital twice this year because of malaria. I haven't had a good night's sleep in years. But now no more, since I painted with Ines Fly insecticide paint. copy.
Innesfly insecticide paint kills mosquitoes dead for up to 2 years. It is a quality paint, a healthier option, and it's totally safe for humans and pets.
Take my word for it. Paint malaria out. Use Innesfly insecticide paint now.
Innesfly for a pest-free life.
The weather is brought to you by
Innesfly for a pest-free life.
Time now for sports. Did I tell you that Accra Great Olympics has moved from 16th to 13th? That is a great feat.
That's one above the relegation zone.
We are safe.
Okay.
If the league ended today...
You want it to end today?
Oh, we will win the league. Gradually.
From 13th to 1st.
Oh.
I wish you
miracles.
Oh, they do happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Dennis, good evening to you.
Good evening, Francis Abban. That's actually 3 places above the relegation zone.
Oh.
Thank you for that
1 place above the relegation zone, 3 places from the 16th spot.
Yeah, so I was right.
So, yeah, he's right about that.
Yeah.
And it means the Olympics is doing something, you know.
We are doing something
good about their campaign.
Oligboza.
No, it's called Only Wonders.
Oligboza.
Yeah. You know, one of the accolades of the team or the nicknames of the club is the Wonder Club.
Of course.
Accra Great Olympics.
Yes.
So they are continuing the wonders, and hopefully they will win more matches this season and stay or protect their premiership status. But this evening, I'll be bringing you stories related to Michael Essien, the Ghanaian football star who's currently in Indonesia. We'll also talk about the Black Starlets because they have some assignments to fulfill before the African Championship. And also, we'll get to talk about a lot more stories on Sports Brief.
Sports Brief is brought to you by Castlegate Real Estate Group.
Castlegate Estate Ghana Limited has evolved with new management and administration and positioned itself to serve you better. Seize this opportunity to do business with us by reserving a plot this year and start your own construction today. Castlegate Estate also has near complete or shell houses and serviced plots at prime locations on offer for sale at Katamanso, Tama Community 22 and 25 extensions, Dodoa and Prampram at very affordable prices. Our fully serviced plots come with electricity, pipe-borne water and road network. These plots are now selling fast. Just call our new management team and book appointment for free site visits. Castlegate Estate. We make home ownership easier.
And now to the details on Sports Brief this evening, because Ghana's under-17 male football team, the Black Starlets, have lined up 2 friendly matches against Tanzania and Niger as part of preparations for the Gabon 2017 Africa Under-17 Cup of Nations to be played in May this year. On your screen now, that is the Black Starlets team. They'll be playing against Tanzania and Niger. They will be going over to Tanzania for the very first game, and the second match will be played here in Accra at the Accra Sports Stadium against Niger, and the team will definitely be looking forward to their campaign that will be in Gabon 2017 Africa Under-17 Cup of Nations event, and Ghana is in the same group with the host nation Gabon. We'll be looking forward to making an impact at that particular competition because the Black Stars have failed to shine very well this year. when they went for the AFCON event. We finished 4th. So the Starlets would like to bring some hope, at least back to Ghanaian football fans, by doing well in that particular competition. But on to our next story, because Ghana's midfielder Michael Essien will start training with his new club, Persib Bandung, tomorrow after arriving in Indonesia to join the Liga 1 club yesterday.
Essien decided to rest today after suffering the effects of his long trip to the Asian country. The former Chelsea and AC Milan star plans to join his teammates in training tomorrow to improve his fitness level ahead of his debut on April 15 when the 2017 Indonesian Super League kicks off. In an interview with reporters at the airport, Essien expressed gratitude to the fans for a warm reception and said he's looking forward to making his first appearance for Persib.
I came here before and I saw the fans, everyone at the club. Everyone is very nice, so yeah, I'm very happy. The trip was okay. It's very far though, but I made it, so yeah, I'm happy. I don't know very much, but I'm here to experience it, and I'm looking forward to the league here, and hopefully Boboto will do something this year.
Now let's go over to South America, because Argentina star player Lionel Messi has been banned for 4 international matches and fined for verbally abusing a match official, meaning he will be missing his country's 2018 World Cup qualifier against Bolivia tonight.
The Argentina and Barcelona forward was handed the ban for directing insulting words at an assistant referee in Thursday's 1-0 win over Chile. Messi, who scored the only goal in the qualifier, was angered when he was flagged for a foul, waving and shouting at the assistant in response. The 29-year-old was also fined £8,100. He will miss his country's next 4 competitive fixtures. Argentina are 3rd in South American qualifying, with the top 4 teams advancing to next summer's finals in Russia.
And that's quite unfortunate for Lionel Messi, who's now been banned, and also for the Black Star. Let's wish them all the very best. That's all for Sports Brief this evening on News Tonight.
Right then. That's a lot to take in for sports this evening.
I know, Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
All right.
4 matches.
Yes.
Hey, Argentina is
He's human after all.
Yeah. At a point, you are saying he was a god of sorts.
Well, he is.
Really?
Yes, he still is. He's like Sarkodie.
Hey.
Yes.
Has he also been banned?
Let's go for international news.
Europe's second highest court has lifted sanctions imposed on the daughter of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, arguing that they are no longer justified. Aisha Gaddafi was included on a list of people subjected by EU government to a travel ban and a freeze on their financial assets in 2011, the year when her father was overthrown and killed. She sued, arguing there was no clear reason why the sanctions remained in place after the death of her father and the fall of his regime. In 2014, the EU amended its sanctions but kept her on the list and rejected her request to be removed. The prosecutor in Simone Gbagbo's war crimes trial in Ivory Coast has requested a life jail term for the former First Lady. Gbagbo, who is currently in prison serving a 20-year sentence for endangering state security, is boycotting the trial. The chief prosecutor accused Gbagbo of heading a crisis cell which allegedly coordinated attacks by armed forces and pro-Gbagbo militias. Nearly 3,000 people died in the violence that followed the 2010 elections after her husband, Laurent Gbagbo, refused to accept defeat. The evidence came from documents found at the home of the presidential couple when the pair were arrested on 11th September 2011. And in Gabon, a national dialogue initiated by President Ali Bongo aimed at resolving the political crisis which arose after the presidential election in August has started. The president says he wants to unite Gabonese people who have been divided since his re-election last year. Opposition leader Jinping, who is still challenging the re-election of President Ali Bongo Ondimba, is boycotting the talks. Mr. Ping alleged fraud in the president's narrow poll victory after official results gave Mr. Bongo 95% of the vote on a turnout of 99.9% in his home province.
Right, so I guess the sins of Mr. Gaddafi have now been lifted off the daughter. I think, you know, sometimes our actions have consequences for not just us, but our families as well.
Of course, that's why we must always be responsible.
Yeah, I guess.
All right. E-Zone is next.
It seems Matthew Knowles, more aptly known as Beyonce's father, has been getting into some legal complications. He has been accused of defrauding his former lawyer to the sum of $50,000. Matthew allegedly hired Langferrer Law in November last year to represent him and his company Music World Properties for an unstated legal matter, but has refused to pay them. The firm claims it was a deliberate act on behalf of Beyonce's father, and the total sum owned by Mr. Knowles comes to $49,120.35. Knowles has also been accused of selling off memorabilia and other items from his time managing Beyonce and the group Destiny's Child at a secret auction over Super Bowl weekend in Houston this year. The law firm was aware of the sale ahead of time and sent out a letter outlining how they hoped the auction would be used to pay off his outstanding bill. Although it's not exactly confirmed what Mr. Knowles used the firm's services for, Langferrer Law specializes in business, civil, commercial disputes, contract disputes, collections, and disputes between parties.
All right, so thank you so much for your time. I'm Anamoah.
And I'm Francis Abban. Thank you for your time this evening. State of Affairs is up next.
Absolutely.
High sense. When you're in Ghana, 60 years. Hooray! Oh my papa. I'm not so semi no me no back so mo hoban. Enti pian free dada na twe current ni sin chain. Na bra, na me ma high sense free. You want one hold bebre. And ni just me wo mu ni say entry power. High sense fridge. You want the own dispenser and at the end dispenser. Nanso the obeto bia no, wo de ade shema e kuni ntem na keeping it fresh. High sense fridge board that form. When you bottom wow to high sense fridge na dum so chow. 53rd March, 28th March. Borrow high sense shop bia mu. Madam High Sense, matete so amamu say who? Afai friend. 0302 550000. High Sense, everyday prices for everyday people.
On Saturday, 8th April, the Vodafone Ghana Music Awards celebrates GH, home to musical legends like E.T. Mensa, Osibisa, Ramblers, CK Man, and a whole lot more. Join us at the Conference Center as we celebrate 60 years of GH music with the new kings and queens, all battling for the prestigious and highly coveted VGMA plaque. It's the nation's biggest night of glaze, glam, and jaw-dropping performances. Saturday, 8th April at the Conference Center. Book your seats now on 050-129-0939. It's GH Music's biggest night, supported by Star FM, GH1 TV, and proudly brought to you by Vodafone. Power to you.
What is your personal vision for the company?
We should be a very significant player in the industry, known as the real face of insurance.
I take my moments when they come. I'm trying to get into a more rounded business leader.
Can I be the president of Ghana? No, I can't. I don't have what it takes to be the president of Ghana.
Oh, no, I think you do.
That's your opinion, Akwesi. Thanks for the compliment.
My name is Akwesi Safo Kantanka. Join me right here at Fiesta Residences Boutique Hotel and Apartments as I ask the tough questions.
Change managers with Akwesi, women to watch. A compelling conversation with women who are defining the future.
Two guests, one host, forming a panel of 3 lawyers. Each week, discussing relevant legal topics.
As soon as the court grants the adoption order, that child is no longer the child of the natural parent.
There isn't a single text in our law books which would come close to forcing a kid in his mature age to take care of his parents.
The gossips. Yeah. You've heard it's baseless. You move on from house to house discussing it. They can sue you for defamation.
If you go to office and you don't work, when is the end of the month? Feel shy. Don't go to the bank, please.
Some people actually sign prenups at the wedding ceremony. Actually, they sign it first and then they sign the certificate. What is this?
Law Express. Be empowered.